things are very valid things to say as long as you say something else about it, but in themselves are very boring. So it's a sort of adding a little extra. And again, the issue of how much extracurricular stuff goes in, we don't care about it, but other places do. So I'd say at least a paragraph.
Would it be possible to get a copy of the notes?
Yes, I'll email it through, yeah. And it can be used even with kind of reference to the Oxford application in that extracurricular things can demonstrate qualities that we are looking for, even if they don't particularly mind what extracurricular things they've done. It could show that they're able to manage their time, which that's a really important one for them to show, is that they can cope with a big workload and kind of have a life at the same time and be okay. That's quite a good thing for us to see. So again, we've kind of covered this a little bit already. The joint subjects issue, it's fine to have not equal weighting. It's fine to have, actually, if they really don't want to indicate to their single course places that they're applying for a joint course elsewhere, you can have a sort of crossover. So you can sort of talk about the other course without it being really blatantly obvious that they're for a joint course if they really want to, but I mean, they don't really need to worry about that. When you get people sort of applying for perhaps more different courses, it can be a problem. I mean, obviously, I'm trying to dissuade students from doing that, but it does happen. I mean, but yeah, you can kind of focus on more transferable skills within that, but it's generally a bad idea. Medicine is always a bit of an interesting one. With the fifth choice, they really don't have to mention it at all, because presumably their main aim is to get into medicine, so they need to use every possible inch of their personal statement to write about medicine. The fifth choice will realise that they're the fifth choice, and will act accordingly. Often, places will offer to a medic, even though they know it's fifth choice and their personal statement isn't about their subject, because they realise that they might not get in and actually they're quite a good candidate. And that if they end up as being their only offer, then suddenly they've got a rather well-qualified applicant there. So they do often get offers even without writing about the subject. I wouldn't suggest that they have Oxford as fifth choice. Probably an exception to that rule. I don't think Oxford tutor would be like, oh, right, biochemistry. But most universities wouldn't mind too much. So I have in your handout of wonderfulness somewhere in the tiny script, so I have to put it in. This is a medicine personal statement, and then followed by a commentary from a tutor on it. So have a look, see what you think. I've got the selection criteria at the bottom. And again, there's kind of similar things to think about. Is this good? Is it bad? What advice would you give in it? Is it similar to what your students would write?
Commentary is really useful.
Mm. What do you think of it then?
I really like it. It's very honest and
Yeah,
I liked it
sort of a
more.
Corbynite personal statement.
Yeah, I liked it more towards the end than I did the beginning.
Yeah, it's an odd start, isn't it? It's quite sort of negative.
But it's quite the hook.
Mm.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
It seems like they've got a very realistic idea of what it would be like, so it's not some fleeting flight of fancy. That
Yeah.
Yes.
No, clear. It's almost actually like it's been written by someone who's an admissions tutor. That opening paragraph is not dissimilar from what I've just wrote from my personal statement, in that actually it's such a cliche that you have this sort of dazzling epiphany of, and then that made me realise I wanted to be a doctor, and it's amazing. Or, you know, when I was 5, I set fire to my pyjamas, and there's always some bizarre anecdote. So I think, yeah, it's nice in that way. Do you think that it meets the criteria?
I think it does, yeah. I think so.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, I think something that the tutors picked up, which actually is quite interesting, is that they haven't really discussed their academic interest in it, and they haven't discussed their interest in science, which is kind of, it's interesting in the sense that I think actually what they've done is very sensible in that they're not just applying to Oxford. Because it's quite bizarre for the course I'm applying for, the graduate entry medicine. You submit a supplementary application to Oxford, and so I wrote 2 personal statements, which is weird. But actually it was quite useful because Oxford's criteria were almost sort of poles apart from everywhere else, in that most places wanted to see, you know, compassion, you know, work experience, you know, understood what the challenges of being a doctor were, which this says very well. Whereas Oxford wanted to see that you had interest in research, that you academically were interested in science, that you wanted to sort of pursue medicine both as, you know, a career, but also in a perhaps more research role, and actually being able to write a completely separate personal statement before that was very useful. So I think in terms of hedging their bets, actually this is quite a good approach, but they could have perhaps made some brief reference to a scientific interest as well, in that the Oxford course, and presumably perhaps other courses they're applying for, are the more academic model of a medicine course, and it would have effectively a science degree as the first 3 years. But it's a tricky one, I think. But I quite like the style. I mean, it almost goes on a little bit too much about how much he understands that the job's a bit rubbish. It's rubbish being a doctor, but I still want to do it, honest. but it's good to indicate that. And he does kind of reflect on work experience and things, which is great as well. Any questions on personal statements before we move on from that?
How much reference to their A-levels would you expect to see in a personal statement?
It's interesting. I mean, probably kind of medicine is a bit of an exception in that it's such a vocational kind of course, and they're going to be talking more about that. And what this lacks is perhaps some reference to the A-levels that they're studying. I would say for most, some discussion of that A-level study is definitely useful. Often students think that they can't talk about that because it's not sort of impressive enough. Somehow, you know, their schoolwork is nothing, and they have to have read all these books and things. But actually, their schoolwork is their main academic work, and that's fine to reflect on that. I mean, it's good to see them kind of making links between things as well, saying, actually, I enjoyed this aspect of English, and then I got interested in the history of that period of literature, or whatever. Actually, a kind of more synoptic approach could be quite nice to see. And also then links between things they've done in school and then chosen to kind of research more outside of school as well. That's kind of quite a nice narrative to see within a personal statement. So, sort of as a schoolwork as an inspiration and further exploration is nice. And it's the way students can flag stuff they might like to talk about in their interviews. So if there's a particular topic that they're really good at, that they really enjoy talking about that in their personal statement, we'll flag that for us and we'll go, oh, we see you like plant physiology. Here's a question about it. So actually students can use that quite cunningly. So any further questions before we move on from that? Happy. So a bit on interviews finally. We've talked a bit more about this with the students, but actually kind of encouraging students to start to engage. We're chatting at lunch about this, a sort of differences between different schools and the sort of students' kind of culture regarding thinking about stuff and actually questioning things and being enthusiastic about their subjects. That to kind of nurture that culture is quite important. So just kind of getting them talking about it, maybe sort of, I mean, actually things students do for themselves is the best thing. If they want to sort of set up a debating group or something like that, is really useful. But a kind of this sort of idea of critical engagement, that are not just kind of being spoon-fed and taking things as they are, but actually challenging ideas, having their own opinions. And I think that can be something that the A-level syllabus sometimes doesn't allow for.